Okay, what do I do? Or how do I respond? How do I communicate it? Very many times we are stuck in reaction mode. Somebody says this and you immediately respond, right? You react. Somebody says this, you immediately, not even acknowledging your internal self, not acknowledging our emotions, not getting into that deep phase, because we want to run away from things that we have branded bad emotions. And you realize that we usually get into these bad emotions most of the times. I don't want to feel sad. So what am I going to do? I'm going to run away from sadness. But does that sadness run away from you? No. So they get to be very passive, not until you listen to them. So in that process of being passive, I have been feeling sad, then I'm going to turn angry instead of expressing that I feel sad because you made me feel this way when you said this and that. So I have communicated the sadness. But if you don't communicate that sadness, then it will come out passively, what we call passive aggression. So you become irritable. You become easily agitated. You respond harshly to somebody because you're not addressing the other sadness. They might not have triggered the sadness. It could be that, somebody else did what? Probably it's grief. I am grieving and I'm still feeling sad. But at work is demanding, right? I have to progress. So I'm constantly irritated by my boss, my neighbors at work and everything, and anything provokes me. Have I acknowledged that sadness within? Have I communicated? Have I been in touch with my internal self? So when we get to do that, then we get to be more aware on how to express our emotions, how to express these things. I say, what we resist persists. When you resist it, it will persist. Wherever you go, it catches you.
So we are not supposed to resist.
Yeah, so with emotions, it's sitting back and acknowledging them, getting to be aware, which one is this, differentiating them, is this anger, is this joy? Because you find that some people do not know how to express any other emotion, apart from one particular flat effect, right? And somebody is constantly, when there is a lot of excitement, they don't know how to respond to that. When it should be sadness, they don't know how to respond to that. It's okay. Because their emotions are so entangled that you may not be able to differentiate. Am I feeling angry? Am I feeling sad? Is this a fear? And what is that fear communicating? What's within my external world that is provoking this fear within my internal world, right? What is it about me that I fear to communicate about myself, that I fear to acknowledge within myself? So having to be self-aware, knowing what traits we hold, knowing what things we relate to in the external world is a very simple exercise to know. Well, how does a lion behave? Is it family-oriented? Yes. Is it this? Yes. So is this my value? Can I take it on? Can I grow this value? What does a giraffe do? It stands out. Okay, how do I always stand out? What are the things I have to keep doing, that I have to keep pushing up, polishing myself? Because you discover we stay a lot in the education system where we are controlled for so long, and by the time we get out in the world to get to know ourselves, you're welcome. Yeah, by the time we get to, you have been conditioned to be controlled, not to, to explore yourself, not to be able to express yourself, Even in the families we have grown up from, you don't sit at the table and talk when you are a child. So when you have to sit with your husband and talk, it becomes very difficult because you saw mommy never speak to daddy. How are you going to know how to speak to your husband, right? So the relationship begins from there. How do I, speak to my friend? How do I, express myself to the other? So learning our values, learning our core values, learning our core emotions will inform this, will give us how to get to know ourselves and be able to communicate. Because you cannot communicate what you don't know. Okay? All right. She will introduce herself and then we will go into the next one. I don't think anyone can get so many yellows, so many...
You wanted me to buy a different...
Yeah, maybe those things. But it's okay. We will try as much as possible to use what we have. And So the other exercise is color your world. I hope we are getting to know mental health, right? In the process, are we? Oh, you want information, symptoms, signs, and
Yes.
right. We go ahead. So
That's
we are going to
why-
color our world. It can be anything. You do not have to be very perfect at drawing. Just explore yourself. Move your wrist like this. Do anything, you know, whatever you put together on the paper, as long as you are able to communicate it, right? Whatever you can put, right? It can be anything. Just we know that the wrist moves faster than the mind, right? So, but your mind will take you there. Will take you where you want to go. Just allow yourself to explore. Relax and listen to this song. I don't know what are our favorite songs. Okay, everyone is going to play their
They
favorite
put
song
the song
in their
for
own.
us.
No. Maybe your taste is not for everyone, right? So anyone is going to explore, right? Yeah. So just play that soft music and playing it and move your arm. Let's see what we get.
Draw something.
It can be anything. You do not have to be perfect. You might have never drawn. You might have not gone to an art school. You just move your wrist and put up something, and then we will explore that, right?
The world as is right now, it's this very chaotic world where most of us are living, and it's full of negativity. So people here unhappy, just, you know, everybody thinks this is the worst that can ever happen. This is, how does one get out of, anyway, this is fate, this is all those things. But I'm picturing a world where we can create a path, where I personally can create a path with people, and we move to the world that we desire, we visualize, and we want to be in. So this path can move. We can see the world we want to live in, which is here, but we can't go straight. Definitely there are ups and downs, there are tears, there's blood, there's all those things. So we come down, and then we move, and we move. We come up again, because what we want is very, very important for us. So whatever we go through, we are going to get here. So together, we move through this path, coming out, and here there's a lot of sunshine, there's a lot of happiness. That's why I chose yellow. There's a lot of color, there's a lot of happiness. The world that I envision, there's a lot of things, there's abundance of everything. So this is the world as is and as.
Thank you. I'm just curious about how far are you on this path?
How far
Where do you stand on this path of you?
of me, I think I am here.
Okay,
Because
how-
I went down here,
Okay.
but
You are coming up.
I've come up, so I think I'm here. But I
Okay.
want to move with others.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. She shares one thing that is very important, that the path is not straight, right? There will be that down, there will be coming up, right? But I'm glad she has already come from down, so she's moving. Sometimes some of us could be in a low place, but our hope is that we climb up on the road of the journey. But also, it takes work, right? How do we get there? How do we get up? Because you know how you go up on the hill, you have to, you know, engage other gears, yeah, that are very strong, right? So up on the hill is a little more work, right? Yeah, but it's very easy to slow down, right? You may not have to, you can go neutral, right? Going down. But then going up the hill, you have to put some gears, right? What does that mean? We have some work to do, right?
Yeah.
All the time. Effort, you know. Okay, thank you for sharing. Thank you for allowing yourself to be vulnerable. Thank you. She makes a wonderful impression that when we spread ourselves so thin, right? Try to touch everywhere, right? We may not be able to touch anywhere. But if we slow down and go back and connect with our values, with our emotions, then we get to know, to be satisfied with the little that we touch, right? We get to be patient with ourselves. We get to respect ourselves. We get to appreciate ourselves more, right? Okay. Thank you. Oh. So here you have this, right? Everyone has. When you look at it, I've found it that it's very core to everything, right? Most of the things begin from childhood. Most of the things that we struggle with today begin from childhood. The environment we grow up from, what happens around that environment, creates an everlasting impression, right? When we are young, we see a small world, and we want to recreate that world when we are old. That's the constant struggle with life, right? And if this world has been bad, do you want to create that bad world again? Do you want to sustain that world? No, right? If it has been filled with abuse, is that what you want to do? But you find that people have been driven there because they have not gone back to reassess. What was my world like, right? What was my childhood like? What does that mean for me? What am I likely to come out to be, right? Neglect. Neglect is one thing that I've seen so spread, right? Because we may not see it. My parents never caned me, right? I don't have a scar from my father or my mother. So that means I was never abused, right? But maybe they were absent for most of the time. What's that? What thought does it create? Because we are so plain when we are born, right? We only start learning things depending on the world that we see. That small world where we are, right? For the people who have grown home, for the people who have grown. So, are you creating that safe world for yourself, but for also the other generation? So very many people that I get to see struggle with a lot of adverse childhood experiences. Yeah? There's a lot of neglect, which is emotional neglect, silent treatment, and I've told you those are the things that come as a process of not being in touch with your emotions, right? You don't want to express your anger, you don't want to express your sadness, right? And then you just choose other means, right? Passive means. The dysfunctionalities that go around our homes while growing up in schools, we were abused. Whatever you have gone through now, right? Who has a scar? And they are very free to show me or to show to all of us. Who has a strong scar? Somewhere visible.
Because
Yeah,
you were
scar.
beaten or what?
No, anything. It can be a scar. It can just a scar. Or a mark somewhere. It can be anything. Okay. Oh, okay. Right? Anyone can see that scar, right? Okay. So trauma is just like that, right? Without taken care of. Yeah? If I asked her, if we went into processing and I said, where did you get this scar? When did you get it? What time? Where? How? Right? There is a story to that scar, right? Is that the truth for all of us?
Yeah.
There is a story to that scar. And where does that lead us to? That trauma, most of the time, communicates that way. That there is a time, there is a where, there is a when, and it gives us those thoughts, right? Sometimes we are in depression because something happened. There was sexual abuse somewhere. There was a bullying somewhere, right? The things that are here. And these things bring trauma. And when you get triggered, when you get re-triggered, there is another trigger somewhere. You might survive it because the brain knows how to survive. The brain knows all the things that it can do to take you out of that place, right? If you have fought, maybe you have gotten to a point where you don't feel pain now, right? Because the brain has taken you out of that place. There is war around you and the brain has taken you out of there. You don't feel pain. You're going to feel it tomorrow, right? So, if we do not open up that scar and clean it up, right? Like these nurses you see in trauma, right? In the trauma ward at Mulago. Cleaning up with all of those, ingredients of whatever acid they use, right? However painful it is, somebody says, if I don't open it up, it won't heal, right? So sometimes we have to take off the bandage and clean it up and wipe it clean, right? And these scars are emotional scars that I'm talking about. They are deeply imprinted in our feelings, in our thoughts. It still winds down to our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings, right? So oftentimes trauma communicates that way. You see somebody behaving in a certain way and you don't know how they got there, right? What we have shared here, no one knew that the faces you had seen at the beginning that just said a name would have a story to that, right? You get it?
Yeah.
So getting to learn this, having the concept of trauma, for me, my sessions go up to 10 sessions or 15 sometimes or 20 sometimes, depending on the need. But I must tell you that I first go from as far as year 1 or some months. Did you breastfeed? What was your attachment, right? Was it secure with your mother? Was it avoidant, anxious? Was it, insecure? All of those things come into play at the end. For all of us who are parenting, we go back to those core concepts. How are you relating with your children, right? How are you appreciating their differences, their individualities? If you want to treat them like a lamp, are they a lamp? Are they that collective, these are my children. Everyone has unique attributes. And if we get to learn that, then we'll learn to appreciate people and allow them prosper, allow them flourish, right? There are so many colors right here, right, at Momo's place. There is pink, there is what? They are not harming each other, right? You haven't seen pink attack yellow, have you? No. But then when you put them together, they thrive, right? There is green. Green doesn't eat out yellow. Green is very powerful. It makes all the food, but it doesn't complain when you come and pick out the flower part, right? Does it? No, it doesn't, right? So many of these things happen to us when we were young, or in the process of growth. We never stop being young, we never stop being old, right? So the process of growth, it could be young as 15, it could be young as 12, it could be young as 20, it could be young as 0, right? The process of birth only can be traumatic. It can be a traumatic birth. And from there and then, somebody goes autistic, right? It can be from, mommy had to go back to work so quickly. After 2 weeks, she dropped me, she moved on, right? She would come. I would spend a lot of time crying all through the day. No one would come to my rescue. The brain created a mechanism that, you know what? Even if you cry, no one is going to respond to you. There is no help coming for you. So what are you going to do? Just keep quiet and just suck your thumbs. Take it easy. Self-soothe, right? These become the behaviors that we use to cope in the real life, right? What do I do instead of crying for help? I'll pick that bottle. What do I do instead of crying for help? I'll go out on a sexual spray or whatever you call it, right? What do? I'll be very irritated around work. I'll not acknowledge that, you know what? I was very sad when I was a child. No one will get to know that. I'll put up a face, I'll show up, and no one will ever know these things happen to me. Right? Yes. So the concept comes to now. If we acknowledge these things, can we ask for help? Can we look for help? Is there help? Yes, there is, right? There are people to help you. It may not be the expensive therapy that I hear people complain about. It can be a friend. But acknowledging going to a friend and accepting yourself to be vulnerable. We go to these friends and we don't know what to ask for, right? Me, I was just telling you, right? Don't tell my story to anyone. Huh?
How will you know that you have that problem?
When you look at these things, if I said everyone write down what they have ever experienced around here, yeah? Is there anything within your age of today, before, in the past, in your history, is there anything that you have here? What meaning could it have left with you? Right? Was I bad enough? Was I not a good person? My mommy didn't like me. I've been surprised for some time these days, A mother hates their daughter so much that it's so terrible, right? Right? That it's so terrible that you even in session that you want to ask, is that your mother, your biological mother? Did you do DNA? Yeah. You want to get to that place. Uh-huh.
I wanted to pause you there a bit and take
I've
you
been
back.
paused.
You were talking about the
We are. We were just enlightening, but I'm glad so many people are becoming vulnerable and they're expressing themselves really well, right? I might be challenged in helping and how, knowing the resources you have, now going to explore all of that. I may not go into that, right? You mentioned a tortoise has adaptability features, right? What are those adaptability features? Take a look at its shield, right?
one of them is not safe. Just hey,
Yeah. That one, it hides when there is fear, right? Does it acknowledge its fear? Yes. Does it become aware that there is fear outside? Yes. It goes to internal self and it waits for that fear to go and it comes out and walks majestically. It is very patient with life. It has this shield. Even if you throw a stone at it, it is well protected. So be curious at those things, right?
so maybe I'm asking because the thing is we use these animals, but we are not the animals. Maybe we don't know how to make. We don't know where our shield went. We need to know
Okay.
to have our shield with us.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm glad, we are getting very vulnerable. We want to explore ourselves, right? But this is something we do for group, and I'm glad it is bringing out these things so well, right? And this could be one. Okay, have I gotten enlightened about what mental health means for me? Okay, can I be curious and seek help, right? So that is the continuation of the story, right? And now that we know where we need the work, right? We have gotten to know where we are limited, where we need support, how we can seek support. Then now we be curious, right? This was a one-off, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm glad you appreciate that. Don't feel neglected here,
So
right?
now, like in her case, she has realized her issues.
Exactly. As long as we bring them from the unconscious to the conscious, I'm very happy.
She's aware that there is a problem. So now she needs to get out of that situation and seek for help. That's what you're implying.
Yeah, number one is can I
You
go and
have got
seek,
it.
can I go seek for more help, right? I am now acknowledging that I need more help, right? More than ever, right? I realize that there is a strong pattern between my father and my husband, right? Because I grew up in a chaotic home, in a very controlled home. I want to liberate myself from that kind of home, right? You remember my question about if
This side
We
is
go and-
more.
It is okay.
No, it's okay.
This side.
it's okay.
This side is okay.
So we tend to create the things that we have seen, right? So most of the times we are continuing a story that we began as children, right? What we saw, the concepts that we saw, what a father looks like, what a mother looks like, those are the things that we continue. But now the question is, are we continuing with intergenerational trauma? Are we sustaining this trauma to the next generation? Are we passing it on? Oh, this is the time that we get to question ourselves and say, you know what? Enough is enough. This is a time to ask for help. It's a time to put in the work and heal ourselves so that we can heal the world, so that we can heal those people that we touch. She has healed some people, that have gotten into nature, and that has been her power. Can we go back to those concepts? But then now, most importantly that we take out of here is that while they were speaking, did they speak about me? Did something come out for me? Did I relate with something? Can I run for help? Can I ask for help? Can I ask for more support? Because if I go into exploring these things, then I'm going to start to close out the group and then concentrate on you. But then we still want to have all of us engaged, right? Okay? But then most of the times, it's all of us struggling the same way, but maybe. So, we go to this now. I don't know if you need a breather. I think...
We should stand.
Okay, you want to
We do
stretch?
some exercise.
Okay. Defenses that are likely to harm you. There were some defenses that are very okay. I can use this one. Okay. So, as we shared, some people said, I want to be like you. So that one has helped me. So we can pick from those good defenses, right? And sustain those ones. Now we have a resource to use, right? So expressing ourselves is very important. standing our ground, communicating what boundary has been violated, acknowledging that, we are feeling sad is very important. Being aware that we are being sad, because some people do not know when they are being sad, they are being angry, so they don't get into that state of self-analysis. Like the people who fall back and say, okay, now I'm angry, I'm going to fall back, and just be aware of that. After that, then I can be, But you see how these things take us out of our skin. Our emotions take us and propel us to do so many things, right? Yeah. Now the biggest is alcohol, drugs, women, things like that, right? And whatever. Even men, you see that?
Some women are going for men.
Yeah, it's vice versa. Yeah, so you find that, those things are taking us out of, and we are not doing the work internally to acknowledge these things, raise them, probably bring them to surface. Like I told you, if we do not clean that wound properly, it may never, it will continue to bleed whenever somebody pinches it, right? It will continue to bleed, and when it bleeds, you go back. The mind will take you back. It will not rest. It will take you back to when, where, how, right? So you will go through that process again. You say, okay, this happened to me 10 years ago, and it is happening to me again. It will reinforce something, right? This word has this meaning. So sometimes we tend to have wounds on our souls, okay? And these wounds are the emotional wounds that we must take care of. And that's why that mental health is on a continuum, right? If I asked you now, because there is mental well-being, there is mental illness, Some people have the mental illnesses that have a genetic predisposition. In those we have autism, we have schizophrenia, we have bipolar, but also things that like depression. Some have a link to the genetic predisposition. You may be susceptible to depression, but you may not be aware because it happened in your generation, right? So somewhere 2-3 generations behind, right?
Even alcohol.
Alcohol is a dependency. Sometimes we are trying to manage these mental illnesses.
No, but there are some families.
Yeah, there are some families that have a lineage which we call also intergenerational trauma that we have been passing on. Like domestic violence. If you look at the concept of domestic violence, it is a sustained behavior, a learned behavior. That I was young, I saw mommy beat daddy, right? I saw daddy beat mommy, right? So if I become a man, what man am I going to become? The man who beats the wife, right? If I don't become the man who beats the wife, I will again reverse it to the man that can be beaten by a woman, who cannot set their boundaries, who cannot communicate. Yeah? A person who has no value, who has a very strong low self-esteem. You realize I'm using strong and low, right? Pretty down. Yeah? So things like that. So sometimes we are oscillating in the extremes, but the most important for our mental well-being is finding the medium. The continuum is on a scale of 1 to 10. Are we at 5, 6? Are we at 5, 6, 7 there? Right? If we fall off, are we falling to a 4? But if we fall to a 0, illness. If we fall over and beyond 10, maybe narcissism and things like that, a high sense of self-importance, a high, like a Vijay Junior, things like that, right? Go ahead.
I want to take you back.